morning, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of today's Today's Opening Bell, or how we call it in Romania, Deschiderea De Astăzi. Today we have with us Mr. Richárd Végh, the CEO of Budapest Stock Exchange. Richard, hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning. I'm glad to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming here with us and taking your time. Richard, let's see about the Budapest Stock Exchange before we delve into the discussion. Let's see some statistics. The daily liquidity numbers, number of investors. How are the statistics?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of history, if you allow me. So this year is an anniversary for us, an anniversary of 160 years of the establishment. So in 1864, when the Budapest Commodity and Stock Exchange was established, and it has a great history in these early times, a lot of commodity trading, and then the securities came. And of course, after the Second World War, it was closed down and it was reopened in 1990. But still, we also have this anniversary of the first establishment of the stock exchange. So this is 160 years. Regarding your question to statistics, actually the most important market segment for us is the equity segment. We have many other products, maybe we will touch on it later on. Regarding the liquidity and turnover of the equity market, we have this year around 30 million euros as a daily turnover. This is up from last year, around 10% up. So, however, there are difficulties in the economy and so on. We see that the trading activity is still nice and above last year's figures. Mm-hmm. The market cap actually also went up this year, and this is a longer term. So the performance of the Hungarian index, the Bux index, is really good in the recent times, this year, last year, but also if you look at a longer term horizon, the index is performing very well. So the market cap of the equity market of the Budapest Stock Exchange is around 40 billion euros. So this is roughly the statistics. And who are the investors? You also touched upon that. Mm-hmm. In Hungary, sometimes half, this year a little bit more than half of the turnover is generated by foreign institutional investors, like pension funds, international pension funds, insurance funds, hedge funds, and so on. We have around more than 1,000 institutional investors from abroad that are actively trading. And we have, of course, the Hungarian institutional investors and the Hungarian retail investors. The distribution, as I mentioned, is more than half is now international flow. Around 1/4 is the Hungarian retail flow, and the rest is prop trading and the Hungarian institutional trading.
30 million euros from the entire market, not only equity.
This is the equity market, yes.
Equity market, and with bonds and commodities?
Well, actually, 90% of the trading is done in equities.
Okay.
So this is the majority of the trading volume. We have derivatives section, which is the second most actively traded part of the market. On the derivatives market, the most traded instruments are the foreign exchange futures products. But we have single stock futures and index futures and commodities as well. But in terms of the total trading volume, these are not the main product segments for us.
What's the number of retail investors, Richard?
Well, if we are looking at this year's figures, and if we are looking at those investors that traded at least once this year, we have roughly 50,000 retail investors that already traded this year. But of course, you have many other investors who are kind of longer-term investors, not necessarily trading very frequently. All in all, we have in Hungary more than 2 million securities accounts at banks and brokerage firms. But of course, not all have equities on their account, because also for government bonds or investment fund shares, you need the securities accounts. So there's a difference between those who actually directly also investing into equities. On a yearly basis, in a more active year, it could be around 100,000 people who are trading at least once in a year, but it can a little bit vary between different years.
What's the liquidity at the Budapest Stock Exchange if we exclude the MOL and OTP?
Yeah, actually, your question is relevant because the Hungarian market is quite concentrated in terms of the equity market turnover. So we have three papers, three equities in the MSCI Emerging Market Index: OTP, MOL, and Gedeon Richter, the pharmaceutical company. And very closely related to this fact, and also because of the size of the market cap, the size of their free float, the size of their free float market capitalization, these three instruments are dominating the equity market of the Budapest Stock Exchange. So all over these three, representing around 90% of the total trading volume. We have Hungarian Telecom, which is used to be in the MSCI Emerging Market Index. At the moment, it is not included. So they represent around 5%, and all the rest is again 5%. So this is kind of the concentration of the portfolio.
How do you appreciate this concentration, Richard? Is it good or is it bad for the market?
Well, actually, yeah, it's great that we have such very nicely traded equities that are very relevant to international indices, international investors. You can find a number of big investment houses that are following these instruments with research, and they are actively bringing them to different roadshows to international investors. So if you look at from this perspective, I think it's very good for the market that we have these flagship issuers. On the other hand, of course, this is always better to have not so big concentration. So we are actually working on to have other instruments that are traded in a more active way. So that's our task to do, to find more new issuers as well, and other products like not necessarily equities, like ETFs or other products.
How do you attract new companies to the market? What are the steps that you're following?
So we are doing similar initiatives that, for example, the Bucharest Stock Exchange is doing for years, and other exchanges in the region. And I think similarly to the Bucharest Stock Exchange, we also have very nice successes in this arena. So we established a SME growth market, a multilateral traded facility. We call it in Hungary the Extend market segment. So this is especially designed market segment for SME companies. This is kind of the entry market segment for the Budapest Stock Exchange. It is a little bit less stringently regulated. The stock exchange fees are lower. So this is a very good place for companies to start to be listed. You don't have to apply the IFRS accounting rules. You can stay with the Hungarian accounting standards. So there are a number of little bit less burden on the issuers. So we see that this is a good entry point. In the last years, we had 24 new companies entering to this SME market segment, the Extend, and some of them already upgraded to the main market. So, as I mentioned, this is kind of an entry market, and after some years, with some growth of the company and some experience on the capital markets, how you have to behave towards the investors, building up step by step the trust for investors. So after that, you can enter the main market, and some companies from the Extend already did that. So this is one part, and And we do a lot of other things. So, for example, we have a research and market making program for mid-cap companies. This is also related to how we can facilitate the liquidity of the mid-caps, not only the big blue chips. So if you have a research, there is a quality information. This is coming from the research houses, and if you have market making, the spread in the book will be better. So these are steps that are really helping those companies' liquidity, that are really focusing on how secondary market trading is evolving in their equities. And we had very nice years and results on the bond segment as well in the recent years. We have also an MTF, multilateral trading facility for bonds. It is called X-Bond, and we have around 100 bonds listed, close to 100 issuers. These are very nice Hungarian companies, and for many of them, this was the first step toward the capital markets. So previously, most of them only had banking loans, but now, as a first step, they have the bonds. And maybe now they have also a very good experience with the capital markets. So they are already issuers of publicly listed instruments, the bonds. So for them to maybe come to the equity market at a later stage is a much easier step compared to a company who has no experience at all with capital markets.
Is the Hungarian government also issuing bonds for retail investors?
Yes, they are also listed on the exchange. However, they are not heavily traded on the exchange. These are mainly OTC traded instruments, but they are listed and you can find the prices of them as well. And yes, the Hungarian government has specific bonds issued for the Hungarian retail investors.
Richard, you've mentioned the derivatives market. For how long has it been operational in Budapest?
If I'm not mistaken, the derivatives segment was opened quite some time ago, I think in 95, or maybe even 93, some segments of it. So it has a long history. Many investors have an appetite for leverage, and this is a good instrument to have the leverage. Or in some other cases, it can be used for hedging as well for companies. So it is used for both purposes. And for that reason, we have the CCP function in Hungary for many, many years. I think we were among the first European exchanges to have the CCP, not only for derivatives, but also for the cash market transactions. So I think in this respect, the Hungarian market developed quite early in the 90s.
We're still, the Bucharest Stock Exchange is still in the process of authorizationing and operationalization of the CCP. How much do you think is it needed for the capital market, or like what is the impact for a CCP?
Yeah, of course, the classic function is managing the partner risk between the trading members, between banks and brokers. So I think for the derivatives transaction, to have a successful derivatives market, it is essential, because there you have the margining and the partner risk is, because of the leverage, is higher. So I think also it is a very transparent and very reliable system. So I think for margin trading and leverage on the futures market, it is essential. On the equity segment, on spot market, it is not that crucial, as you have this experience also in Bucharest, I think. So you have very nice trading without the CCP function. But I think generally, if you have a good CCP for the derivatives already, it is, I think, rational to use it also on the spot market. And of course, in normal times, it's not that much needed. But if you have a crisis situation, this is very, very good to have it for managing the partner risk.
How come if there's a crisis?
Sorry?
How come is it good to use it when we have a crisis?
Yeah, for example, if in an event when one of the trading members goes down because of markets, some problems on some market segments, or say the miscalculated and so on, then the CCP stops that, so there is no overlapping or rippling effect of the problems of one market participant to the others or for the whole market, because the CCP is entering every transaction as between the buyer and the seller. So, and they have the collateral system, so it's kind of effectively stopping any problems of one market participants to have a ripple effect to the whole market.
And now, Richard, 1 million points questions. What does the Budapest Stock Exchange would like to have from Bucharest Stock Exchange, and the other way around?
Yeah, so I think clearly what is a weak point of the Hungarian market is the local institutional base is much stronger, I think, in Romania. Particularly the pension funds, which is much larger in Romania, and the whole system is, I think, more developed. Unfortunately, in Hungary, the amount of pension savings is, I think, in the last position among the EU countries, only 4 or 5% of the GDP, while in Romania, I think it's at least 10% or even more. So this is something that I wish we would have. And maybe the vice versa, what we have that maybe in Romania still under development is MSCI emerging market status. So I think it's important to have some very liquid shares, very high free float ratio, which are very liquid. So this is probably still ongoing. And what is, of course, the Hidroelectrica transaction was very nice, maybe last year, I think.
Yes.
So it was very nice, so that former state-owned companies coming to the market with a nice approach. I think this is something that I wish we have someday to have some big transaction from the state at some point.
How was the IPO of Hidroelectrica reflected on the Hungarian stock exchange? Did investors ask about it?
Yeah, some of the Hungarian brokers are also active in Romania, so they have research for different companies. So I'm sure that they promoted this also for their client base. I'm not sure whether actually in the IPO process or on the aftermarket, but I know that many investors are looking at the Romanian market because the dividend yield is very nice there and so on. And also we have the regional index, the CTOP index, which includes also Romania. So at the moment we have 6 Romanian companies included into this regional index, and therefore as well those institutional investors that are following this index also following these companies, and Hidroelectrica is included in that as well. So I think this was perceived very well. And also it's a good example that big transaction can be done very effectively on the local market. You know that in some cases when a very big company from one of our countries planning a listing, the potential for bringing this new IPO to a developed market like London or Amsterdam or even New York is coming up from time to time. So I think good examples for large transactions that are happening on the local market is very important for all the regional exchanges. So I very much liked this, how it happened, and it was a local listing.
It was a discussion here as well regarding a dual listing in Bucharest and in London, but eventually the entire participation went here. The primary buyers being, as you've mentioned, Richard, the private pension funds. Thank you very much, Richárd Végh, the CEO of Budapest Stock Exchange. Richard, thank you very much for the discussion.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Until next time, have a profitable day. Thank you. I will switch to Romania now for the closing remark. Data viitoare, fii întins la investiții câștigătoare. Numai bine!
Știu ce spun.
Cresc tensiunile dintre Statele Unite și China. Au ieșit și s-au atacat reciproc.
Nu se poate. Unul fără celălalt ar fi dezastru.
Știu ce te interesează.
Ciolacu vrea să mai scadă din atribuțiile primarului de București. Nu a întrebat pe nimeni, nici măcar pe specialiștii lui.
Mi se pare aberant.
Știu cum să te fac curios.
A început invazia avatarurilor care vor fi profesori în școlile din Europa.
E un mare succes.
Tu nu te duci la școală doar ca să afli lucruri noi. Școala te pregătește să fii un bun cetățean.
Știu cum să te emoționezi.
Singurătatea este una din bolile secolului.
Ai nevoie de tine, în primul rând, și apoi de oameni.
Să stai un pic să te așezi emoțional.
Știu să conving.
Republica Moldova este acuzată că a încălcat drepturile omului.
I-ați blocat la mantinelă pe niște candidați care nu vă plăceau? Așa face și Putin. Care mai e diferența între tine și Putin?
Cu alte cuvinte, Uniunea Europeană a spus
Maia
că...
Sandu putinistă?
Nu?
Știu să câștig.
Rămânem prieteni, da?
Promit.
Știu, deci știi.